Hey everyone, welcome back to Brownlow Books. It is Monday, but you're not getting a review today. It is that weird week between Christmas and New Year's where you don't know what you're doing, there's no one at work, you're trying to eat all the leftovers out of the fridge. It's a weird week, and it's gonna be here too, because we're gonna go over some stuff. So, I plan on telling you about the year I've had, my DNFs, any books I maybe didn't give a fair chance to, my most favorite books of the year, my least favorite books of the year, and then we're gonna look forward and see what next year has, what I'm gonna plan for, but probably won't happen again. So today we are going to talk about 2022. Alright, so at the beginning of the year I had a video that was like, hey, what are your intentions? I don't set resolutions. I said, what are my intentions with reading this year? So I've got my little notes. We're going to go over what I said, and how it's going to be moving forward will be in another video. So in my 2022 intentions, I said I wanted to read 40 books. I set my Goodreads goal as that. I have one chapter left in a book. That will be my 40th of the year, and there's still 2 weeks left of the year when I'm filming this. So yeah, I'm gonna hit it. I said I wanted to read more of what I already own. You've all seen the hauls. So I tried to work out some math here. It says I did 14 of the books I read this year I purchased this year. 5 were ARCs, my advanced review copies. A little fluff on the screen. 6 came from the library as ebooks. I only do ebooks from my library because my library's far and I don't drive, and just, yeah, it's a thing. So that means 25 were accounted for, which means 15 were what I already owned and read from what I already owned. So it's not fantastic. It's not terrible. It is what it is. Alright. I wanted to read more classics. You know how many classics I read this year? I didn't pick up a single classic this year, which is so weird because I actually bought quite a few this year from like used book sales and such, like my charity sales I go to, etc. And I haven't picked up one. So that's not great. I wanted to read more like nonfiction and memoirs. I did 8 or 9. What I'm reading right now and set to finish is a nonfiction. It's the 1619 Project, so I am set to finish that within like a day or two. So that counts as nonfiction. So yeah, 9. Hit 9. Which is fair. Storygraph told me that 72% of my reading was fiction and 28% of it was nonfiction. That doesn't include this book that I'm about to finish, so like, it's fair. I mean, some people only read fiction and some people only read nonfiction, so like, I don't think I would ever want it to be a 50-50. I just feel like sometimes nonfiction and memoirs get like a little, how do I describe it? Like they put a weight on you sometimes, I feel like, because you're like, I know this is true and this person's going through horrible things, and you're just kind of like, oh god, like, you know? So sometimes it puts that weight on you that you don't really need. Like, I'm very much a mood reader, I've told you that, so I feel like that's what's happened there. I wanted to read more of like the bestsellers I missed and the hyped up books that I didn't get to, like when they were built, like being super hyped up. So for that, I did the Canada reads. I did all 5 of the Canada reads, so they were hyped here in Canada at least. I finally got around to Educated, Tara Westover. That was super all about that. What, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Like, you could not go anywhere without seeing it. I read Mouse by Spielman. So that was, you know, big important one this year. I read the 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, or the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, depending on where you live. I felt like that was a book that I just saw so much of all of the time. People are talking about all the time. And it was a book club pick, but it was like something I already owned and was planning on reading anyways. So like, I finally got that and I was just kind of like, I understand why it's hyped, but it's not 100% for me kind of thing was what was up with that one. Yeah. I didn't do great on that one this year either. I wanted to finish series that I started. What did I do instead? I started more series that I didn't finish. I did get to finish the Great Library series by Rachel Kane. I finally got my hands on the 5th book. I read that, completed that for me. But there's still books where I've read the first one and have not read, 2 or 3 of them. And like Paper Girls, I've read 2 this year. There's 5. I read A Touch of Darkness, which is apparently a 4-book series, or soon to be 4. But then I also found out that there's like a series that follows the same timeline, but from like Hades' perspective, not Persephone's perspective. And I'm like, did I just like get myself into like an 8 fucking book series? Cause like, Charlotte don't do that. So there's that. I wanted to read more of my advanced review copies. I receive them. I don't always receive them before they publish. So that for me sometimes makes it less interesting. There's no longer that deadline where I'm like, I have to read this by this time. It's already passed. And so it kind of like goes by the wayside. But this year I read 5 out of 37 that I've won. Some of those never arrived. 37. You heard 3, 7. Some of those never arrived. So I didn't actually calculate out how many I've won with having received. I've just, so far this year, I've been gifted 37. Some didn't show up. Some are still at my mail holding. Probably. And then a bunch came like after they were already published. So I was like, But then I got quite a few around the time that they were supposed to be set to publish. And so I did end up getting to them. So 5 is actually a really high number for me to do my arcs. I know that sounds horrible given that I feel like I've won maybe a little bit more this year than I have previous years, but it's still kind of like, right? So I didn't do great on my things. I did okay. But I mean, if we're doing a roundup, if you guys don't have Storygraph does some great analytics. I'm not a fan of the interface at all, but they do some great analytics of what you're reading. And my heart, my little math-hating heart actually loves it. So like I said, it said I did 72% fiction and 28% nonfiction. Apparently the 2 biggest things I read are LGBTQIA+ and historical fiction. Those are my 2 biggest genres, and I'm like, not really genres, but okay. And then under that is YA, which I don't understand this year because I feel like I haven't read a lot of YA, and I'm wondering if stuff is tagged as YA when it's not really YA. And under that, a 3-fer, romance, literary, contemporary. Apparently that's what I'm reading. I don't pay attention to that kind of thing, so it's nice when they tell me and I go, oh, okay. Just looking at myself and like what I did, I did a tally and I picked out like how many books I was reading with 2S LGBTQIA+ representation. It says 5. I feel like Storygraph was telling me it was like 7 or 8, and I'm like, what did I miss? Did I miss something? Maybe I counted wrong. But when it came time for like BIPOC representation, I've marked down 14. Where was that, Charlotte, in 2021? Because I was like, I want to read books of people that are different than me. And that's a big thing, because hi, look at this pasty. In terms of something like reading books with disability representation, I've marked down 3. I think that's being generous, to be honest. Because I read that weird Christian fiction. He has like leg problems, walks with a cane, and eventually ends up an amputee with a fake leg. And I was like, it's not really like, it's fine. But then I was like, Washington Black has like all these burns that bother him and like cause him to have problems. And then there was another one that I'm now forgetting. I literally wrote it down like 3 minutes ago. I don't remember. Anyways, I was like, that's maybe not a great one. But I also feel like there's just, in general, less books that include that. It's not really the thing that people are catching on to yet. Like, there's definitely good books out there with it, but, like, you gotta look for them. That's what I think. So, that's that. Storygraph says I have read 10,800 pages. Goodreads says I've read 10,829 pages. I don't know where the discrepancy comes from because I know where it is. I put the actual edition that I'm reading into Goodreads, whereas Storygraph, I haven't figured out how to do that yet. I'm not good at Storygraph. It just doesn't do it for me. Love the analytics, hate the interface. I said that already. That's not what this video is about. It's fine. So that's basically my 2022 wrapped up. Did all right. So, yeah, stick around for the whole week. I am giving you a video a day from now until the 31st. So be prepared, bitches. You're gonna see my face a lot. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you around next time.